Horror movies are ruled by genre conventions, whether it's abandoned ghost towns that come to life at night, run-down psychiatric hospitals with one patient that never quite went away, or woodland monsters intent on giving campers an evening they'll never forget. There's plenty of familiar tropes that rule our movie experiences. Whilst they're fun enough to begin with, in the end we become bored knowing that the chesty blonde woman is inevitably going to get done in with a pickaxe as she gets ready to have an excessively steamy bath. If only she'd run the water cooler and seen the message written in blood on the mirror. Every now and then though, something's got to give and a film comes along that challenges everything we thought we knew about the industry to create a whole new variant of horror. Truly throwing the Mentos straight into our Diet Coke, these movies are the ones we never even knew that we needed, tearing up the rulebook and making history in the process. Conventions might be the foundations that the genre stands on, but hey, rules were made to be broken after all. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 6 horror movies that broke all the rules. Number 6, the extended slow burn in It Comes at Night. One of the most recent additions to rule-breaking in modern filmmaking, It Comes at Night was a great example of the power of marketing, offering up a terrifying horror film in its trailers and delivering a slow, measured think piece when it came to the actual release. It Comes at Night broke the usual rules set out by a movie to deliver a truthful representation of its content in its advertising by playing up something it wasn't, and then continued to eschew expectations by not essentially being a particularly horrific movie at all. It Comes at Night was one of the first in the wave of post-horror movies, films that look at conventional out-there spooky movies and work around them to deposit just a feeling of fear in its atmosphere, rather than any outright attempts to scare the audience. The Witch is another great example, as are many of A24's other releases, bringing about a new realization of the horror movie that looks at uncertainty and the incompleteness of human experience objectively, rather than holding an audience's collective hand. Themes of this have spun out into lots more cinematic efforts in recent years, but this feels like one of the more popular and poignant examples in recent memory. Number 5, genre bending in Alien. Haunted house movies are inescapable, and have been since the dawn of the horror genre. A classic dilapidated house or unsettling mansion has long been home to some disgruntled ghosts or eccentric barons. But what happens when you shift the whole template and just stick it in space? Instead of a restless spirit, throw in an acid-spitting alien. Instead of a Victorian manor with trick walls, stock up some corrugated corridors and a blast-ready airlock. And instead of a mysterious entity who was dead all along, substitute a secret robot with cream cheese for insides. I mean, why not? Alien did all this and more, becoming one of the first and best series to truly mesh science fiction and horror into one terrifying bundle, breaking away from classic representations of universal monsters and gothic norms to bring something truly out of this world. Alien was also one in the wave of defying expectations by killing off their star power early on, reinforcing the final girl trope by having Sigourney Weaver the last woman standing. And if all that wasn't enough to blow your socks into space, Alien also purposefully avoided gendering its characters in a script that was devoid of male or female markers, making it another in the unintentional staple of progressive genre films that steered clear of societal expectation. Broke the rules? More like obliterated them. Number 4, all-out gore in Hostel. If you've ever felt a little frightened whilst travelling alone that something terrible could happen in a country you're unfamiliar with, then don't worry. Hostel is here to allay all your fears by proving that you don't need to travel alone. You can be kidnapped and sold off as an object for rich people to torture in a group too, so just go ahead and cancel that European holiday, as there's no avoiding it either way. Of course, both Hostel and Saw are to thank for the permeating torture genre in modern cinema, but it's Hostel that stands as the most intensely visceral. Cutting fingers off with chainsaws, slicing tendons and blow-torching faces, Hostel was the amalgamation of every video nasty into one horrible cinematic effort. Number 3, spooky children in The Exorcist. We already know that The Exorcist is one of the most seminal films in the entire genre, making waves with its impact as a visceral and often disgusting look at a demon inhabiting a young girl's body. But exactly why the film is so important is often forgotten when heralding it as a master of its craft. Yes, The Exorcist still stands up today as a gross-out spooky flick due to its masterclass in horror, but it's William Friedkin's use of a child as the central antagonist that truly broke the genre back in the day. Back in the early 70s, featuring religious institutions and children was a recipe for outrage, which is exactly what the film got, to the point that no one would have dared to make something as outlandish as an exorcism flick revolving around a 12-year-old girl. Even any that did, such as The Bad Seed, didn't dare go as whole hog as the spinning head crucifix-jabbing, vomit-spraying Reagan, making it truly one of a kind upon release. And look at where it has taken us today. It fundamentally shifted how outrageous a horror movie can be, and brought in taboo subjects previously thought untouchable. Number 2. Killing the protagonist off in Psycho. It almost goes without saying that a film like this belongs on this list. Alfred Hitchcock made history by setting up a wonderfully taut and suspenseful narrative of a woman on the run, stealing $40,000 from her lecherous boss and making off into the distance before the police can catch her. Stopping at the ill-fated Bates Motel, however, turns out to be a bad decision, in which Marion gets offed in her shower by a mysterious stabby figure. Wait, what? Well, we were invested, damn it! Psycho challenged the expectation of sticking with one character throughout the narrative by just straight up murdering her without a second thought. It stunned audiences of the time and fast became one of the most widely known and parodied film scenes, well, ever. A testament to its lasting impression on the industry since first act deaths became a surprising commodity. As a side note, Psycho also broke the rules of censoring at the time, being the first film to ever show a flushing toilet on screen and getting around gory violence bans by filming in black and white even though colour was widely available. Number 1. Every rule in the book in Scream. Of course, no dissection of the horror film industry would be complete without a hearty nod to Wes Craven's Scream, since it's the film that tells you every trick in the book before ripping the pages out and starting a fire with the scraps. Considering it's got its very own character built in to tell you exactly what should be going on at any given point, the inner horror nerd within us all, Randy, it's pretty easy to see how the film autopsies itself on screen, proving to be one of the most effective movies that's literally a spoof. Horror films are supposed to keep you guessing, and the characters aren't supposed to know they're in them, but does Scream give a damn about that? No, it does not. And of course, its biggest rule that it manages to obliterate in the closing sequences is that there's always one iconic killer. Instead of a lone slasher taking out the residents of Springwood, we get both Stu and Billy working together as the central villain Ghostface, as revealed in a literal double whammy. If there's a film that knows how to break the rules, it's going to be directed by Wes Craven.